I'm Elizabeth, and my anxiety disorder is my superpower. Imagine you cannot breathe. Your peripherals fade to black, and your vision narrows. In a state of panic, you feel a weight crushing your ribcage. With every exhale, your lungs compress tighter and tighter, making it harder to take in air. Everything is the worst case scenario, yet your rational brain knows you are not in danger. You are experiencing a panic attack. I myself deal with these awful attacks often. That is, I used to. As someone with a generalized anxiety disorder, this feeling of being close to or on the brink of death is unfortunately an often occurrence. People living with mental disorders, such as myself, live in a constant state of fear and panic. Problems from our past, our present, and even our future are always on our mind. Personally, my mind is in a cycle of being constantly alert because my nervous system is overactive. My mind may be working, but my heart races and my body grows weak and insists I'm in danger, that something is definitely wrong, yet it's not. See, anxiety can feel as if every problem in your life is being experienced at one time. This can definitely place a weight on one's soul, but that doesn't need to be the circumstance. See, I'm here to tell you that you do not have to be a slave to your mental disorder. When I was just a sophomore in high school, I was diagnosed with GAD and depression. GAD, better known as generalized anxiety disorder. At this point in my life, I felt anxiety was my kryptonite. I lost interest in the things I loved. I isolated myself from my friends and my family. I was constantly fatigued and tired, yet restless and unable to sleep at night. In fact, nights were the worst for my anxiety. I was kept awake at night by my own tears. I would shove my face into my pillow and quietly cry in hopes that I would not wake up my parents in the next room. For what would I tell them? I have no reason to be crying right now. In fact, without sobbing, tears were rolling down my face. I felt broken inside, like a character that should be deleted from their own story. Thankfully for me, my mother noticed my peculiar behavior, and she insisted that I see a doctor. I was told what I was going through was anxiety and depression. But how could anxiety make me feel as if though I was fading from this world? I was prescribed medication because of the severity of my behaviors. For some people, such as myself, medication comes as a necessity, and that's okay. The medication actually helped me to realize that my mentality was constantly burdened by my own negative thoughts. Much of my distress was caused by my imperfect thinking patterns and cognitive distortions. For instance, my all or nothing thinking or catastrophizing. The problem with our current view of anxiety is that we often forget where it comes from. According to numerous studies, anxiety once started as an adaptive response. The imbalanced emotion put our bodies on high alert, allowing early humans to sense danger. Many of these habits people with anxiety express can actually be good qualities. They just have to be channeled in the right way. More recently, scientists have been exploring the effects of anxiety, and they've discovered that it comes with a unique set of superpowers. That's right, superpowers. Like anyone with unique abilities, whether it be a superhero or a person with a so-called disorder, it takes time to first understand and then train these so-called powers. So what superpowers do I possess because of my anxiety disorder? I actually have many powerful traits that come with my disorder. A heightened sense of perception is one of the most common traits of any anxiety disorder. This trait specifically empowers those individuals to harness levels of perception most others cannot. Such perceptions can be reached like a life-saving instinct. As we know, in earlier times, anxiety would serve as a way to protect our ancestors from both harm or death. Yet, my anxiety was causing me to inflict harm upon myself. My anxiety was having me contemplate death as an option of my negative thinking. For me, that was my low. That was my breaking point, and that was the time I knew I needed to make a change. Let me tell you loud and clear, I love life. I love life. And to have images of dying forced into my mind felt as though my eyes were being held open. And I was being forced to watch a violent slideshow of ways in which I would vanish from this world. Visions in which I would murder myself. No one should have to mentally argue with themselves on why they should be alive. It was from that moment on I seized my kryptonite, barehanded, and battled to understand it. Yes, it is easy for my anxiety disorder to be debilitating, but under the right circumstances, my disorder can give me a miraculous set of skills that others do not possess. See, recent studies prove that people with anxiety are actually better at reacting to danger than people without anxiety. This is because an anxious brain is able to process threat more efficiently. A study done at the Institute of Psychiatry revealed that people with anxiety actually do avoid fatal accidents more often than others. Personally, I am always hyper aware of my surroundings and my environment. Similar to Spider-Man, I have a sixth sense. People gifted with anxiety can predict the future. And no, this does not mean that I can give you the winning numbers to the lottery. It's that French scientists have discovered that people with anxiety, they possess a unique life-saving sixth sense. And that's what I can attest to. See, when the sixth sense is active, it helps both to predict and avoid potential tragedies. These scientists found that some regions in this anxious people's brains have the ability to detect threats in just a mere 200 milliseconds. Pretty quick, right? This sixth sense, it gives the ability to react appropriately in cases of social threat in the environment. Therefore, not only am I saving my own life, I have the potential to warn others and save their lives as well. So not only can I rapidly detect these threats, but I have dreams at night, which have actually manifested themselves during the day. In fact, I am a frequent déjà vu because of these dreams I have. Now, similar to this déjà vu, I have a similar superpower. It is increased IQ. Researchers at Sunny Downstate Medical Center in New York verify that anxiety, it gives us a higher IQ. In this study, people with generalized anxiety disorder were tested for their intelligence through IQ, and the researchers found that anxiety correlates positively with intelligence. A person with an anxious mind is always overthinking and analyzing environments and situations. Their brains are high octane and constantly processing mass volumes of information. A higher intelligence is necessary to process all of this information coming in at a mass quantity. I'd like the record to show I'm not smart because of my anxiety. It is my anxiety that motivates my intelligence. Looking back, I was naturally gifted in the education system. Learning came easily, whether it was oral presentations or written lectures, or it just all came easy for me. And I now realize that my anxiety gave me the super ability to understand and decipher information efficiently. Therefore, those who have higher levels of anxiety tend to exhibit a higher IQ. Now, you may already be aware of my next superpower, and that is the super ability of increased empathetic ability. An anxiety disorder gives people a heightened empathetic ability, and psychologists at the University of Haifa in Israel can confirm that's true. According to their research, anxious people exhibited elevated empathy tendencies, a fancy way for saying they're super empathetic. This also disclosed that these anxious individuals can accurately feel other people's emotions. Empathy can act as both a superpower and a curse, depending on the own empath. I know I have experienced what feels like living high on life, and I've also experienced the awful low of wishing myself dead in this world. It's a very wide spectrum of feelings and emotions, and I have experienced a phenomenal amount within that. Therefore, I have the ability to understand feelings and sensations like no other. Hence, an anxious person, such as myself, can read your emotions and have most likely experienced a similar feeling. I think that makes me pretty super empathetic. Now, a similar power of mine is sensing other people's energies. I can almost feel an aura. Believe you me, people with anxiety can read minds and have the ability to recognize other people's energies. Now, being superbly empathetic, I can easily detect a negative energy. For me personally, I am unable to surround myself with this negative energy for very long. And being extremely understanding and sensitive of emotions, anxious people are able to get to know someone and predict their thoughts and speech patterns. In a sense, us anxious people are mind readers. This is also thanks to our improved memories. We can think for long periods of time. Anxiety gives us the ability to think for durations, so it's easy for them to remember things. Unlike normal human beings, us anxious people tend to see the situation from various perspectives, and these points of view help us think differently. Our memory, it helps us to link past things with present situations. For instance, I am a very quick learner. I'm not only able to remember the correct way to do something, I'm also able to remember 101 ways in which not to do something. Now, with time and experience, my memory continues to expand, as well as my imagination. And with excessive imagination comes enhanced creativity, one of my favorites, as anxiety and creativity are closely linked. In fact, it was T.S. Eliot who gave us the sentiment, "Anxiety is the handmaiden of creativity." Anxious people have racing minds. We can all attest to that. Therefore, they have the gift of being able to endlessly create and imagine. My mind is able to effortlessly function at a high speed, and it runs on autopilot. I do not need to actually think for ideas to come to mind. In fact, ideas are continuously coming to mind. Still, I find the best way to have a creative cognition is let as much information out as possible. Sometimes those are the most peculiar associations that spark the best creative ideas. We need to embrace the creative gift anxious people have been given and celebrate it. The reality is that people with anxiety have an increased level of energy. This can be put into good use if they embrace their anxious kryptonite. Anxious people's minds never stop thinking, and their bodies never stop moving. There is a constant rush of energy throughout the day. And this is where I challenge you. I challenge you to put that energy into bettering yourself. Channel this energy into something productive and emphasize the positive benefits that you are blessed with. You are blessed with these benefits because of this disorder. Lastly, and probably the most important, is the resilience. Like most people with some type of disadvantage, it takes the ability to fall and to get back up that makes us strong. Every time we are beat up, we keep coming back stronger. The same is true for me and other people with some type of superpower. No matter the scenario, keep getting back up. And ultimately, that will make you super. There are countless things people with anxiety need to cope with, but one thing is for certain. You do not need to be a slave to your mental disorder. Anxiety, it comes with a set of super abilities that others do not usually possess. Understanding all of these traits is the first step toward living both happily and healthily with your disorder. Remember, anxiety is not a disability. Anxiety is a superpower.